It's the first day ceremony for the World War II 75th or 70th anniversary stamps marking 1945. It's the fifth and last in the series of stamps that the Marshall Islands has created for issuance. This morning we have with us Scott English, the Executive Director for the American Philatelic Society, and we also have the stamp designer with us, Chris Calley. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Scott English.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Before we get into the program, I wanted to just see if there are any veterans here from World War II. If there are and you're able to stand, please do, so that we can recognize our veterans. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Jim Stever. He's been a member of the American Philatelic Society since 1971. Jim served in the Pacific during World War II. He was with Troop Carrier 433, and he was in the 67th Squadron. The interesting story is he didn't serve in the Marshall Islands, but he was one of the first folks in Tokyo after the surrender in 1945. And he told me a really interesting story about the day that September 2nd, when they were signing the treaty on the Missouri. Jim was flying from Iwo Jima back to Japan, and he had the best perch of all. He was looking over them as they were on the battleship Missouri, and he was flying over with a plane full of gasoline. So we thank you very much, Jim, for what you've done for our country, and I think that speaks to the significance of this stamp, and that is we're honoring some great occasions. And obviously, World War II was a very significant event in our time frame, and I want to congratulate Chris, because it's quite an honor to be. It's a very competitive process to get your design work done for a stamp, and so to be able to do that is amazingly impressive. And the work that went into this is to memorialize folks that served, particularly connected to the Marshall Islands, is something we really do appreciate. And so, without further ado, I will turn it over to these guys. Thank you very much.
The grand unveiling.
The grand unveiling.
Okay, my time now. Well, it's not loud. Many of you know that I've designed a lot of stamps for the U.S., I've designed a lot of stamps for other countries, and designed a lot of first day covers for Unicover, mostly back in the 90s and 2000s. And it's interesting about these stamps were originally, the images on the stamps were originally used on Fleetwood first day covers. When the U.S. issued a series of, when was that, in the 90s, I guess. In the 90s, the series for the 50th anniversary, I guess it was, 50th anniversary of the World War II, I did these paintings for cachet designs for the stamps that came out for the United States. And Fleetwood's parent company, Unicover, has an arrangement, and always has had an arrangement with the Marshall Islands Postal Authority, and they allowed the Marshall Islands to use these for the stamps this year and the past several years. They've issued a set of 10 every year, so there's a set of there's 50 in the entire set. So I back in 94, 91, when I started doing these images, these were for 1995's issue, but I really enjoyed doing it. It was a great project. I love history. I love doing research, and the characters. The soldiers, the generals. It was. I don't mean characters in the funny way. I just mean the wonderful images. As an artist, it's nice to paint interesting and pretty pictures, but for me, when I get into those, really gritty portraits and things like that, and that's why I focused a lot in this series. I focused on soldiers, and I focused on the generals, because they had such great faces. But it was a fun project to work on, and it's great to see my artwork being reused again, after a number of years, because I'll say it myself. They're great images. I really love them. And I don't know. You were saying that Jim was in Iwo Jima in Japan. I might be one of the only people here who's been to the Marshall Islands. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Steve and I both have done the same thing. We've dove in the Marshall Islands. I dove all over Micronesia when I was working on another stamp assignment for the Marshall Islands and Micronesia. It was going to be a series on tropical fish, and so I had to go do the research, obviously myself, and see that firsthand. So I took an extended trip to do my research, as my friends like to remind me that it was a trip that I needed to do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the stamps. Appreciate you coming out today, and as I've said many times for these Marshall Islands ceremonies. Another artist, cashier maker, Dave Bennett, and I always combine and do a first day cover for the event, and all the money we raise goes to a group of orphanages and homes for kids down in Peru. We've been doing that for a while. So I've got some covers if anybody wants to buy any covers. And you already have your programs, and we're thrilled you're here. All right. Thank you very much.